Hey, my name is Jim Zaspel, and I want to talk to you here about today the difference in profit when you sell a house, a rehabbed house, on a lease option versus to a qualified buyer, cash out qualified buyer. Okay. First off, if you want to get more information from me, more trainings, etc., you can go to www.jimzaspelrealestate.com. JimZaspel.com is my blog, or check out my Dealmakers Club at www.greaterphiladelphiadealmakersclub. Alright, I've written out almost all the math here already. No calculator, all in my head. But let me walk you through the deal. So again, this is a house that you've paid cash for, your money or a private lender's money. You're rehabbing it, and now you're selling it, and the choice here, and what I'm going to show you, is the difference in profit between selling it to a qualified buyer versus selling it on a lease option. Okay? Let's go through it step by step. Let's start with some foundational math figures here. So we got the after repaired value of this property is $100,000. I don't know what's up those two lines there. $100,000, okay? The repairs on the property are $30,000. That's for a retail flip quality rehab, selling it to a qualified buyer. Purchase price, $35,000. So we're all in at how much? $65,000 on a $100,000 house. That's a 65% LTV. All right, now we're going to look at this column first. This column right here shows the profit you're going to sell it to a flip, a qualified buyer. So first of all, we start off with a gross profit of $35,000, right? 100 grand minus 30 minus 35 equals a $35,000 gross profit. Now, I realize you probably can't read these small numbers here, so I'll read them out loud and walk you through the steps. $35,000 gross profit minus $1,000 in taxes for 6 months. Okay, let's call it $2,000 taxes per year. You're flipping a house, you're going to hold on to it for about 6 months to buy it, rehab it, and sell it. So it's 35 grand minus taxes, $1,000 taxes, minus $600 to insure a vacant property for 6 months, minus $6,000 sales cost. If you're going to sell a flip property, you're going to usually use a realtor, so 3% to your agent, 3% to the selling agent, 6 grand. Minus $3,500 financing costs. Where did I get that number? Let's go back over here. You bought it for 35, you're putting 30 into it. You want to borrow a little bit extra. You can borrow up to 70% LTV, loan to value ratio. So you borrowed 70 grand on a $100,000 house. $70,000, call it 10% interest, is going to have an annual interest cost of $7,000, right? Okay, $7,000 for 1 year, but how many months are we holding this house on a flip? A half a year, right? So a half a year, what's half of 7 grand, $3,500. So again, our expenses are $1,000 for taxes, $600 for insurance, $6,000 sales cost, and $3,500 for financing. That leaves us with a profit of $23,900. Go ahead and check my math. 35 grand minus 1,000 minus 600 minus 6 grand minus 3,500 equals 23.9. That's if my math is right, and I'm pretty sure it is. Now, that's before taxes though, 23.9 profit before taxes. Now, what kind of taxes are we going to be paying on this property? This is called short-term capital gains taxes, because why? Because we're holding it for less than 1 year. Okay, so 35% short-term capital gains tax, we'll take that off, so 23.9 times 65% leaves us with right at about $16,000 net. Okay, but you'll notice I have $18,000 written in here, right? At least I kind of do. So $18,000 net. The reason I have 18 instead of 16, because 16,000 is 2/3 of this number. Remember over here we borrowed $70,000 on $65,000 in costs. Let's say the rehab went perfectly, no cost overruns. I took out 3 grand for closing costs and left $2,000 profit. That's pushing it, probably not that much, but I want to be fair. Okay, so it leaves us with an $18,000 net profit on a flip on a $100,000 house. Hopefully you got the math. All right, now let's go over to the lease option scenario. Okay, on the lease option scenario, we start with a $50,000 gross profit. Now, how the heck did I get from a $35,000 gross profit to 50 grand? Here's how. I adjust these two numbers up here. When you sell a house in a lease option, the quality of your rehab does not need to be as high. Now, when I say quality, what do I mean? Do I mean you can cut corners? Of course not. I'm talking about the fancy extras, the shiny extras. You don't need to do as much. It's called a rental quality grade rehab for your property. So instead of spending $30,000 on a rehab, like we did for the flip, let's just take off $5,000, and that's conservative. But let's say it's now just $25,000 for the rehab cost. Okay? And if the ARV is 100 grand, you can easily sell it for 110. So write this down. When you sell your lease options, you increase the fair market value by 10%. Why do you do that? Isn't it only fair that if I'm going to let you live in my house for a year or two and give you the right to buy my house down the road, that don't I deserve to get a premium for that? Of course. So 10%. So we got 110 minus 25 minus 35 leaves us with a gross profit of this $50,000 number. So we're subtracting our expenses from this $50,000 number. 50 minus 3 for taxes, $2,000 taxes for 18 months. This is an 18-month lease option. Minus insurance for 18 months, because it costs less to insure a occupied property. Minus your financing. Remember, this is 18 months, 7 grand a year, so we got 100 grand, borrowing 70 grand at 10% is $7,000 interest cost per year. We got a year and a half, so what's 1.5 times 70, or 7,000 is 10,500. And your sales costs are not $6,000 on a lease option. It takes you 50 or 100 bandit signs, a couple thousand flyers, some text message blasts, and some email blasts. And if you follow up on your leads properly, you'll sell your house every single time, provided it's a lease option in a decent area and it's a decent house. Okay, so 50,000 minus 3,000 minus 900 minus 10,500 minus 500 leaves us with a profit of $35,000. Right at about, so 13, 5, 14, 14, 9, yeah, 35,100, okay? Now, we got to add in our income from the rental for that year and a half, right? So we got $1,000 a month rent on a $100,000 house. That's going to hold true pretty much all the time, okay? So $100,000 house rents for $1,000 a month. Are we going to rent it out for the entire 18 months? Now, we're working off holding the property for 18 months. It's going to take us 3 months to rehab the house, a couple of weeks to sell it. So we're only getting rent for 15 months. So $35,100 is the gross profit on the sale. $15,000 income from rental. But hold on, there's more profit here. When we bought this property, our acquisition and rehab expenses were roughly $60,000. Let's call it $63,000 for extra closing costs. But didn't we borrow 70? So 70,000 minus 63 is $7,000. So you borrowed extra. Okay? So we're going to add that in here as well. So we got 35,100 plus a 7 plus a 15 plus a 7, 50,100, 57,100. Right? Yeah. 57,100 net. Oh, but we didn't take out our taxes. I'm sorry. We didn't take out our taxes. I was getting a little overzealous there for a second. We forgot to take out our taxes. We've got short-term capital gains tax here. Short-term is 20% versus a 35% tax. So, what was that number I just wrote down? 57,100, right? 57,100 times 80% is, oh gosh, here come my math skills off the top of my head. So 5,600, $45,600 roughly. So $45,000, yeah, 45,600. So times 80%. So again, 57,100 is our before tax profit. Times 80% is approximately, I hope you can read this from where you're at, $45,600. So here we've got about 2.5 times, well, about 2 2/3 times the profit on a deal just because you decided to sell it on a lease option instead of flipping. So, provided you've got your money lined up, you can hold it for a year or two instead of just 6 months, you're going to triple your profit, almost 2 to 3 times the profit on this deal. It is an amazing, amazing increase in profit. But I'm not done yet. Isn't the argument always, well, Jim, I don't want to wait a year and a half to get paid. I want my money now, ASAP. Okay. So in this flip scenario, you're getting $18,000 net in about 6 months, right? Sorry, I dropped a marker. So $18,000 in about 6 months. Let's look at about how much money you're getting when you sell a lease option. How much money are you going to get within that first 6 months? I'm going to add it up over here. ARV is 100 grand, selling for 110. When I sell lease options, I get 5% to 15% of the ARV up front. So for instance, 10% of 100 grand would be 10 grand. So 5 grand to 15 grand up front is what I'd get. Let's go right in the middle, call it $10,000 up front. Oh, that's awful. That's supposed to be a dollar sign. So I get $10,000 lease option deposit. So when the tenant buyer moves in, say, yeah, I'll pay you the 110, give you 10 now, rent the house, pay the rest when I qualify for a mortgage. So $10,000 up front. What else are we getting up front? Well, remember, we borrowed $70,000, but we only spent 60 or 63 with closing costs to buy the place and rehab it. So once the rehab is done, you could take that other $7,000, take that. Now I recommend you set some aside in case you need to do some work to the property. But still, you want to know your profit, this is it. Now what's the deal? Is it $17,000 minus taxes that year? No. This $10,000 is a deposit. What's a deposit? A deposit is non-taxable income. You don't have to pay tax on that 10 grand until either you sell the house or until this tenant buyer defaults and you keep that deposit. Then you got to pay tax on it that year. And how about the $7,000? If I lend you some money, are you going to pay tax on that as income? No, it's a loan. So this is tax-free until you sell the house. So you've got $17,000 within the first 3 to 6 months of buying this house. And that leaves you with, just under $30,000 more profit in over the course of the next 12 to 15 months. So $17,000, so it's $1,000 less, okay, in the first 6 months. That's not much money less, okay? But you're left with like another $28,000 or $29,000 profit in a year and a half. So if you ask me, I can't imagine why anybody would want to buy a house, fix it, and flip it to a qualified buyer. You're getting screwed on taxes, you're getting screwed on your sales price, you're getting screwed on your sales cost, and you're screwing yourself out of tons of money. You say, well, Jim, my private lender doesn't want to lend me the money for 2 years. They just want to do a quick in and out deal. Then educate your private lender. Okay? Give them 12% instead of 8 or 10% interest. Give them a little bit more interest percentage on their loan so they have a vested interest in staying in the deal. All right? Not to mention, if you're just doing flips, there's bound to be a little bit of time between flips that they're not getting paid interest on their money. So that's it for today. I don't really care if you agree with what I'm saying, but I want to help you in your business because I know this is how I run my business. To get more training videos, go to jimzaspelrealestate.com. Check out my blog, jimzaspel.com, or check out my Dealmakers Club at www.greaterphiladelphiadealmakersclub.com. Thanks.